I really like this shifter. I'm so happy I did this. So I've been driving this for a couple of days now. I think the biggest compliment I can give this shifter is that it's very intuitive. Everything falls to hand immediately. It needs no recalibration of you, the driver, and everything it provides is just better than the OE's shift. It's smoother, it's faster, it's lighter to engage, and at the same time more positive with the feedback that it provides. Got an on ramp, let's do it. Can you help me test these shift cables and tell me which one is better?
Yes, Daddy.
Okay, so take this one, hold your hand on here, and then pull the end. Push it to me. Push it back. Is that easy or hard?
Easy.
Okay. Now let's try this one. This is the old shift gauge. Hands on the gray color. Okay, move it back. Okay. Now push it to me. Push it to me. Push it back. Push it to me. Is that easy or hard?
Hard.
Which one is easier?
This one is easier.
So I use this hanger to hang all the shift cables on it, and basically the idea is that it holds them all in more or less the same position. And then what I'm going to do is just string them out, and you can see them all running here. It is notable that the gear shift is about 6 inches, 7 inches longer than the Crossgate, so that's good to know. And the other thing I'm trying to do is just set the length of these a little bit. Now it's a little deceiving because the old ones are kind of kinked up. They still have a set from previous. So one thing I wanted to do was replace this and put it on the other one. So I tried sliding it off and it won't. I'll see if I can cut it off gently. Alright, that comes off. What I'm going to do is just put it on this one. They have roughly the same amount of diameter for the sheathing. And then you can come up with a better idea than me. I'm going to use zip ties to just keep that on. Okay, so we're moving on this Crossgate assembly. Basically, it says to check to make sure this nut is tight. And it's perfect. It just needs to be firm, but not loose, and that's fine. This needs to be able to go both ways, which it does delightfully. Now, one thing that's interesting, the way mine showed up, it says they make sure that the bolt for the reverse lockout is at an acute angle. Mine is certainly not, so I'm gonna adjust that right now. They sort of have this pointing towards the middle of that acorn nut. So serviceable stuff, and I'm just going to put a little bit on there. Just a little bit. And it's serviceable, so if we have to break it loose, we can. So that's kind of the angle that they want it at. I'm pointing this this back piece towards the middle of the acorn nut. Tighten it up. There we are. It doesn't take much force. So that was a 10mm wrench and a 4mm. So there's a ball end and a spring end, and then there's like another end. So we're not going to mess with this. In fact, I want to make sure those are all the way on so they don't come off, because they're very easy to lose. And that's going to go through here, and that just passes through.
and then get it out the other side. Get that out of the way. That goes through and just sits on there, as you can imagine. And so that's super easy. That just sits right there. And then you just take this and screw it in, and it is starting to go a little bit more smoothly as I get it in there. The threads are cleaning up. That's how you pull on the reverse lockout, which is cool. Alright, we're on to the next step here. So we're going to install basically this bracket right here from kit F onto those. Kinetic is switching it up on me, and they've gone for Imperial. So we're going for 330 seconds on this one. At least they tell you in the call out here, but I would say that's mildly annoying because I'm pretty much done with Imperial and standard units. I just want to use metric, let's be honest. Now, I should use thread locker in these, but I'm not going to do it right now because I'm not done with it yet. It says to loosely install them. Looks like there's going to be a little bit of fine-tuning that we're going to have to do. Okay, we're back. And we have the base plate here. Now we're going to take this, and that is going to go right onto there. So I'm going to put it right onto there and get that to work. And then I'm going to install that on the bottom. And we're going to use thread lock for these. So I'm going to install that on the bottom. So that goes right, those two right there. The old liquid kind works just as well. It's just harder to use. Alright, go in, and once we get it nice and tight with this one, and this it's actually a 1/8, fits a little bit tighter. So again, we're jumping between standard, Imperial, and metric, but we got to get it right. So there we go. I don't want to strip these. So okay, so now we are flipping this over, and basically what we're going to do is start taking this flexible tube and put it up to here. Basically, we've got the lift tube, so let's pop that open. The lift tube goes on the top here like that. Lovely. And then, so that's going to slide up and down on there. Now we have these tiny little, tiny nuts. And these are unbelievably small. 1, 2. Talk about easy to lose. So that comes up and goes through here. And that's the threaded end, goes through there. That's through, and it comes out, nut drops on, and we thread this through. Alright, there's one. That's going to get threaded on. And so I get that through a little bit. There we go, just a wee bit of this stuff. Lovely. This is going to go on. This happens to be an 11mm, so we'll screw that on. Yep, lovely. Okay, goes nice and tight there, and one of those tiny little losable nuts goes back on. So now that's 2 little losable nuts, but they're on, and using a tiny little adjustable wrench. And I'm going to put very little torque, but I will put some. And immediately we can see it's working. Oh shoot, well, that's not good. That's very bad. Okay. So that's an unusual failure mode. I tried lifting it up without the shift knob, and what happened is the ball came out underneath here from the lockout position. So I'm not going to do that again, and we're going to put on the shift knob as it says in the instructions. Sometimes you just got to do what the instructions say. Okay, we're back at it. So I got this back in here. The ball is back into its little slot, and we can see things are good. There we go. And that works alongside this piece to give us an upper limit for the reverse lockout. So that's actually quite important. So I'm going to tighten this up a little bit more. In theory, you could use thread locker, but with a jam nut, you really don't need it. So that works really nice. Lovely. So basically now we've got, if I hold this down, up to the left is first, second, neutral, third, fourth, and then over to the right, fifth, sixth, neutral, lift up on the collar to open the gate, and that's all the way into reverse. Cool. She's so pretty. Feels nice in the hand too. Everything feels really good. I can't wait to bolt this in. I want to bolt it. I want to bolt this in. I want to bolt this in. It's in the car. I mean, it's not installed, but it's within the car. It's right here. I'm gonna put it in. Okay, these original nuts and bolts that came out of it, the old shifter, get reused, so they go back in. This may help me. Magnetic removal tool, just to hold the nut underneath there, because otherwise I can't really reach it. Let's just get this. I'm gonna put them in just sort of little by little. That's why I'm not going all the way down with them. All right, and now we're just gentle torquing them down by hand. I don't like torquing things by. This is just aluminum in here. You can strip it, you can get too rough with it and break those riv nuts, which we don't want to do. And reverse. Optional step. It's an optional step. I realized this one spot right here doesn't have the rubber going around it, so I'm gonna see. I think I have some, so I'm just gonna put it on there and see if this works. All right, there, it's protected. Just got a little bit of rubber protection on these two spots. I think it's worth the extra moment just to make sure that things don't rub. Again, I need to hire my wife to come work for me. Hello, let's go. We're gonna insert the cables. Let's do it. All right, I'm gonna do it Crossgate first. Nut and bolt on there. Make sure you take that off. This needs to pass through. I think we could argue, maybe even take off the, maybe we will take that off. Nah, I think we'll leave that on. So we'll leave on the eyelet here and push this through. So we'll call, Crossgate is on the outboard of the car, gear shift is on the inboard of the car. And this is the handbrake cable. So I've got the Crossgate and I'm gonna start feeding it through. Just getting some of this foam out of the way. Just be very gentle with everything. There's no need to force anything. Can you see anything moving down there? It should be about halfway to you now. Oh no, I didn't like that. It's looking all messed up on this. Darn it.
Okay, I see it.
Okay, see if you can gently grab it. Okay, yeah, just really gentle, really gentle.
Okay. Okay, out.
Pushing a little bit more.
Okay.
It has to go up towards the gear shift.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Right there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is where it's gonna go. Great job.
Okay.
Can you put that on like a condom? Slide that up so I can see CG. Should slide all the way. Cool. Do you see it? Do you need that tool?
I don't need that.
And that basically went right where we wanted it to go. So it's funny. We're on page 7 of 14, which would imply that we're halfway done, but we're really way more than halfway done. Because we're very much on the reconstruction now. The cables are in, the shifter base plate and the shifter mechanism is in. And now we're going to install the handbrake, and all we need is kit B and J. Well, is that a happy accident? I don't know. Just kit B and J. Coincidence? I think not. And now the one I can't see. Gentle hands for this, boys and girls. You're gonna have to be real gentle to get that to go. So we're just leaving this loose. All of this is gonna need adjustment later, but for now I just need them to not fall off. That's most critical. Okay, we gotta get the handbrake switch on so that fits on here. Oh, come on, you son of a gun. There we are. Lovely. See? Handbrake slides back a wee bit. And that's gonna install right on there. These are 3s, by the way. And because that's gonna make my life super easy. I'm telling you, if you lose something in there, you ain't gonna be happy. If only I had 3 hands. Okay, this is kind of... Now I'm gonna use this clip and press it on. Be a good little clip and just go on. Yay! That was actually very easy. I don't like that that's rubbing. That's not cool. Gear shift goes on the top, and Crossgate goes on the bottom. That goes all the way down to here. We're going to put the pins through. Not too bad. push. The handbrake cable, which is down here, appears to be rubbing up against the cable bracket, which holds the cable. I just don't like it, and it rubs. Actually, this goes like that, and it rubs whether it's engaged or not engaged. It should be. I just don't like it. Take a think about that. I'm going to fit up the rest of the other side and see if it gets better. Okay, I just started the other side, which is the right side piece, so now it's on. I've tightened up, I've loosely put these in just for fitment. Again, this goes on the inside of the tab, as you can see there. And now we're working on getting the handbrake mechanism so that fits in there, and we'll start tightening up basically everything that we did on the left side, we now have to do on the right, as you might expect. And easy enough to do, so let's get started. Uses a pretty bit, you could even go with a bigger screwdriver, which I think I will. We're getting close, we're getting close. It's for a technique. Make life easy, right? All we gotta do is do it one more time with the nut so it doesn't fall down into the bottomless pit. There we are. Go on. I have this nut pretty much where it goes, so I can just sort of run it up against that for now. We'll always do the fine adjustment later. So we should be able to at least actuate things. Let's see. Oh yeah. That's the... Okay. Why is that? That's all the way in. Interesting. First. It's not going over nearly as far as I thought it would. This is me just thinking and trying to adjust, make things a little better. Just play around with it, just to try and get it perfect. So this is me now taking it all out again because I feel like I need to adjust it. And maybe I haven't clearly told you, but essentially the Crossgate is, I'm too long here. So we definitely have to remove some threads, that's for sure. Okay, top tips from my experiences now. Hopefully this saves you a little bit of trouble. The base itself can cheat forward and backwards, even with the screws in here. These holes are made by Lotus and they're pretty sloppy. So my suggestion is you cheat them fully forward and do that before you put in your riv nuts, because that's going to help you. And you can check by this one on this right side. You want to make sure that that fits in there, get your holes lined up, and then you'll notice how far back this is. Mine is really towards the back here by my finger. I'm even going to take a little bite out of that to help it fit better, because moving the entire assembly forward will help. And again, we're talking millimeters here, 1 to 2 millimeters, and it's going to just help things out as it evens up. Another thing that's a real lifesaver, get yourself a magnetic tool. These tiny little, like you can't even see them. There's little nuts and washers here. You don't want them to fall off into the abyss, so get those as well. And you might be like me and have to cut your shift cables, so we'll talk about that in a bit. And we're back apart again, doing slight little adjustments on some of the pieces to get everything to fit better. This is the dance. Okay, this is the dance that I'm learning here. little bit of finesse, little bit of fine tuning, getting things to fit. We don't assume that Lotus made every one of these cars the same, because they're all a little bit unique, like me. No, like you, like everybody, okay? These are cars with a lot of character, and so we have to work around that character.
Originally, my handbrake cable was sort of rubbing up on that bottom of the handbrake bracket. We certainly don't want that because I don't want it to wear or actually cut my handbrake cable. That would be an absolute mess to have to come all the way back in there and fix that and replace the whole cable. So I don't want to do that. So what I did was I slotted the front hole on the handbrake bracket, and then I also relieved a little bit of area on the bottom of the bracket, and now the handbrake cable runs underneath it without obstruction.
I don't know, man. I think we're gonna need a bigger beer. So on mine, and before I put the other side on, I'll show you. My cable, my handbrake cable was rubbing up against the bottom of this, and it was fairly sharp because it's sheet metal. And so what I've done is I've actually slotted these two holes in the front, tilted the front up a little bit, kept the rears.
And that made such a big difference. So by tilting that up in the front and then slotting a little bit and relieving it there, the cable no longer rubs there. So it's perfect. Yours may not have to do that, but mine did. Way better than a worn or broken handbrake cable.
So we are pretty much on to the final install. I say that because we're putting on, I am putting on thread lock on anything that doesn't have, you know, anything that doesn't have a nylon nut. Everything gets the thread lock, and I mark it when it's done. So let me keep working on that. These over here have nylocks, so they are done already. These don't need anything, they're into rubber, so those are good. So we still have here, not much left. Do not skip this thread lock step. By the way, make sure you use, you know, the blue stuff, something that is workable, something that is not gonna totally never come out, in case you need to get in here for some reason. Some of these we've already built, and it's just a matter of sort of taking them off and putting the thread lock on. And some of these, once you have it together, it's kind of a pain. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Kind of a pain to take them apart and rebuild them. So it's something we got to do. So just deal with it. I've done everything. Everything's got my red marks on it. Means it's all Loctite on everything that needs it, or Nylox on the other things. That's good. Now, one thing, as I'm testing the fitment and stuff, this down here is the handbrake switch. It tells you if you've left your handbrake on. So very convenient and useful. Well, it works, but I'm not super pumped about it because it's kind of off center, and it looks like there's like a really limited engagement. So I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna put some washers on the other side of this and make that stick out, and then it'll engage perfectly. Lost that fucker. Okay. Oh, there it is. I can actually see it. Okay, can I retrieve it is a different question. I get it? I did. Can I get it out? I can. Is this still on? All right, so there they are. All right, so there they are. I've got my two little washers that I've put on there. Those are just essentially going to act as shims just to push this out. And there's 2 more washers on the top. Again, I'm just shimming it out so it interfaces perfectly. So I've got it adjusted, and delightfully, as you can imagine, it is far better. So as you can see here, there's not much throw on the cable, and it's not very clearly stated in the instructions, but basically what we're saying is, because I called up Shinu and Carlos, thank you Shinu and Carlos, you guys are great, you're super helpful. Basically we have to cut the threads on this Crossgate, only the Crossgate one. The reason is that this cable originally was designed for just replacement of the original OEM cables, and was designed to work with the original shift mechanism, but now it has to have a slight adjustment to work with the Interkinetic ShiftR111. So anyway, let's go ahead and cut it. So we're taking the cable ends off, and there's tons of threads on this thing. They're extra long. Give you a lot of adjustability, but it works against us right now, and that's not helpful for us. So there we are. Try not to drop things. I'm going to count back 5 threads. The magic number is supposed to be 5.
And so this is what I learned from working on this. Basically, the Interkinetic TransCables were designed earlier than the ShiftR111 shifter unit, so they do work together, and they work together very well, but they do require some modification work together. So if you want to replace the Interkinetic TransCables to the OEM shifter, you don't have to cut them, and that's something that I do think is worth it for some people. The TransCables are not cheap, but they're certainly far less expensive than doing both the cables and the shifter. And I think for some people where they're having cable issues, that could be a real solution for them. Now, the other thing that's really going to be the common case is using the Interkinetic TransCables and the Interkinetic ShiftR111. And to do that, you're going to need to cut about 5 to 9 threads. I ended up cutting 9 threads on mine off the cable. In the instance that you just want to replace the shifter but not the cables, you can do it. It'll work. I don't even think you have to cut the OEM cables, but I just don't recommend it. Like, if you're going to go through all the work of putting in the Interkinetic ShiftR111, you may as well just put the new shift cables in as well. It'll be only a couple more hours of work and really help you. And to really visualize what I'm talking about here, this is what I'm saying. You know, count 5 valleys from the tip of the cable and then cut down with the cutting tool. And the idea there is that you're going to get your cable end, you know, the eyelet here, to really snug down on the to the unthreaded portion of the cable. But in my instance, I found that I had to cut about 9 threads. So 9 valleys. I actually did it in 2 bites. So I did 5 threads first, and then I did, 4 more. And then through some measurement, I was able to confirm that the threads interior to the cable end actually still weren't bottoming out on the cable end. I was just bottoming out on the unthreaded portion of the cable. So I was able to countersink about 2 to 3 millimeters into the cable to relieve that, and then get a few more turns or a few more threads deeper into it. And that made a big difference for me. I mean, that's my experience. I wouldn't start there, but I would do that as a backup plan if you needed to.
And basically, I've counted off my 5, and I'm going to go ahead and go. Using a Dremel tool with this. Make sure you're wearing protective gear when you do this. I mean, if I turn off my headlight, basically, I've got glasses and a shield. Or I'm probably overdoing it, but hey, you don't want it. And you think I'm joking, but you don't want one of those spinning blades to go hit you in your eye, okay? You're not going to enjoy your Evora if you can't see. So my recommendation is you make this cut on a bench. Obviously, I did it here, and this is the cut product, and it's definitely actually fairly clean cut. I'm fairly proud of myself. It did create a little projectile that then flew onto my carpet and kind of started to melt a little hole in my carpet. So don't let that happen to you. You don't want that. You don't want that. Ideally, we want to go all the way so basically all the threads are not visible. All right, that's kind of, we got just a couple of threads still visible here. So at this point, I'm really not sure if I'm going to have to take off these extra three threads from the front, which would bring us down another 3, and really jam this up against the end, which Carlos and I talked about possibly needing to do on the phone. Either way, I'm going to try it like this. I can always take off more threads later. I can't put them back. So let me see if this is good. All right, we got to route these things underneath here. So there's a little cable hang. There's a little cable hang here, and then they go more or less straight up at the transmission by the axle, and then more or less straight vertical up to the mount points at the top of the tranny. Once you're here, just gonna go ahead and grab them, gently pull them up. Welcome aboard, son. I've got the Crossgate cable, mocked up. I don't have any of the clips on at the moment, but it is there, and it more or less just wraps behind the transmission and under. I don't think there's a lot of guidance for it. It just needs to get there. Okay, a couple of things that might help you that I'm figuring out. One, I've got the I got the gear selector on with the clip. It's mocked up. I still need to tighten everything up, but if you look through the car, which is pretty cool, you can actually see the gear selector moving, which is actually really helpful. And it's very easy to find neutral. Very easy to find neutral because there's intents 1, 2, 3. So that would be 4th, neutral 3rd. Okay, I'm gonna tighten that one down for now. I'll probably loosen it and adjust it later, but that one's pretty close to where I want it to be. But that's probably about right. So I might be wrong, but I think I'm onto something here. So I'm feeling with my hands on the Crossgate. So Crossgate mechanism on the tranny, right? So this direction goes towards 5th and 6th, right? So that's really obvious. That's neutral. It always settles to neutral. And then there's really first and second is here, and then also reverse is here. So the thing I'm trying to tell you is, as you gently push, real gently push towards 1st, 2nd, it goes smoothly, and then there's a slight bit of resistance right here. And then the further push, I think, is reverse. I think that's it. So now I don't know if we're gonna be able to feel that through the cable, but I can feel it here. And so what I'm trying to do is get it so I certainly can go all the way down. I'm gonna adjust the cable length so that works. And I'm gonna adjust it both here, and then also at the turnbuckle, when the turnbuckle is on this side right here. So this actually loosens and tightens and lengthens the length of the cable. So it's a starting point for my adjustment, and look, you may do it differently, but this is what I'm gonna do. I've got this on the longest, meaning the fully extended length here, so that's the longest. I'm gonna tighten that up there just to get some feel. And then at recommendation of Carlos and Shinu, I'm gonna go 9 full turns here, and then set it, and then I'm gonna adjust from there. Okay, we're into the adjustment phase, and that is indeed the hardest phase. Now, I think I found all of the gears when I go through this. So right now, if I push straight forward, you would think that would be 3rd, but really that's pushing into 1st, so we're gonna have to keep adjusting it. Now, over to the left, there is reverse. That's good. So I'm back to 1st. I go over a little bit, and that's 3rd. And then I go way over, and that's 5th. So I'm a little bit off center. I need to just bring it back so that I can get 3rd to be centered. So a little bit more adjustment needed, because right now 3rd is to the right a little bit, which is not exactly where I want it. All right, this is my strategy. You got to find reverse on the gearbox. In the gearbox, to do that, you go down towards the ground as far as possible, and then rotate counterclockwise. Top down counterclockwise, okay? I'll show you where it is. So that's neutral, all the way down and over. That's reverse, okay? Now, in between there, in the middle, there's 1st gear is right there, and then that's 3rd gear right there, and then if you lift, that's 5th. Anyway, the point I'm trying to say is get all the way down, and then what you do is you just adjust your cable so that it's gonna fit
on maximum extension, it needs to get all the way into reverse. And then that's a good starting point. All right, so where I'm at right now, I have all the gears, and I can go through them. Left, right, forward, all of that. But I'm not centering to the right spot. And what I can see here is that with the springs and how everything's set up, it wants to sort of center towards first gear. And we really need it centering, and I can feel it. You can feel it. You can lift it up and feel, boom. There's sort of a little bit of resistance right where it wants to settle, and that's third gear. That's neutral, right? That's the third gear plane, which is where neutral is also, right? And then, whoops. And then further up, so I needed to settle, further up is fifth and sixth. I need it to settle right there, but it wants, you can see it's pushing over to first. So I don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shorten up the turnbuckle until it settles in that midpoint. So when we talk about adjusting the shifter, it's really hard to show on the video, and it's hard to explain it verbally. So this is my attempt at a schematic of actually explaining what I was feeling and seeing and doing. Okay, so on the left here, clearly we have the shifter side, which is the traditional, shift pattern, and then on the right here, really is sort of a schematic of the Crossgate, where it just kind of goes from vertical top to bottom. So a really common situation that happens when you set this up for the first time is, I'm going to talk about the transmission side first. They have where the springs are balanced at third, the plane of third and fourth, and that's where you want it to be. And that on the shifter side, it's also balanced, but it's balanced at the plane of first, second. And that's a really common issue. A lot of people feel like they've got it set up correctly, but it neutralizes to first, second. If you pick this up from the shop and this is how it was set up, unacceptable. You can't accept the car. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to drive, you're going to go from first to second, then you're going to go for third, and it's going to go back into first because everything centers on first, and you're going to blow your engine. So absolutely unacceptable. Make sure that you adjust it away from this. Now, as you're adjusting things, this is pretty common as well, that you kind of get this sort of what I call Crossgate float, where you have these springs from the shifter side and the springs from the transmission side, and they're not working in harmony. They're sort of, compressed and jammed up on the transmission side, and they're working against the shifter side. What you have is where it'll kind of get stuck kind of between two gates, both on the shifter and the transmission side. And you can get it to go into all the gears, and you think, oh, I can still get and achieve every gear, but it doesn't center correctly, and that's important that you have it centered on third. And then usually after you have that Crossgate float 1, this is Crossgate float 2. It's better, right? You've achieved, a spring balance on the shifter side, but the reality is the shifter side springs are pretty strong. They're actually stronger than the transmission side springs. And so you can get it where it'll center to third on the shifter, but it's still sort of jammed up on the transmission side. You can feel that it's not really happy and it's not centering. What this means is it's still not going to slot correctly into the gate. And this is also kind of something to be avoided. So you're getting closer, but it's still a problem. It's still dangerous. Finally, this is what you really want, right? You want things to be centered both on the shifter and transmission side at the third, fourth plane, right? Your springs are balanced. Everything's working in harmony. If you're Crossgate, to the fifth, sixth plane, they are both pushing back. Both sets of springs are pushing back towards the third, fourth center plane. If you've shifted towards reverse, then both sets of springs are bringing you again back to this third, fourth center plane. That's what you need all of the time. Make sure you take the time to set this up correctly. It's got to feel like spot on. All right, finally doing the last bit of tuning here. We're so close. I know we're close, but more cutting to do. So let's get at it. I'll explain to you what's going on. So I've got first, second, I got all of the planes. I got reverse as all the way in on this. I've got first as a little bit out. I've got neutral as here. You'll notice that it's and that's just the spring that's inside the transmission that's driving it to here. We're a little bit past this, and then of course fifth and sixth is all the way out, and that's fine. Plenty of stuff to get at fifth and sixth. So if you notice, we got a lot of throw here that we're not even using. First is roughly there, and reverse is a little bit farther. Not all the way down, but a little bit farther. And then of course fifth and sixth is up here. So just to kind of show you how this all looks, fifth and sixth is right on, right? It's going to be very close because you go right to about there. Neutral, we're about 6 millimeters off. I just measured it, and from the center to center of the holes, that's about 6 millimeters, just over. And even though it looks like there's still threads here, I can't go anymore because it is bottoming, the the rod is bottoming out the bottom of this little eyelet. So what I'm going to do is cut off a few threads in there. I might cut off 6 millimeters. I might cut off a little less than that. I certainly don't have 6 millimeters more to give of threads. So I've got, you know, I've got about maybe half of that, about 3 to 4 millimeters that are there that I can certainly cut off. After that, it gets a little bit questionable. I did this. So in my math earlier, I had actually put red, I'd done some math earlier and I put red marker on where I thought I'd have to cut it if I came back and had to cut it. And sure enough, there's a red marker on that last 3 millimeters. My new math estimates that I'm probably gonna have to cut off 4 millimeters. I don't want to cut off all the threads, obviously, because I need threads there to engage, but I'm probably going to do 4 millimeters right now and see what happens. All right, here we go again. Basically, I'm cutting. Right there is where we're trying to go. By the way, these are diamond. I'm using a diamond cutting wheel, and it's actually really good. I recommend it. And it's basically a Dremel tool or equivalent. All right, let's go. Look at this. I've screwed it. I've cut it so perfect. It comes right down to the last thread and bottoms out. I love it. Let's check if it works. Progress, but no cigar yet. What we're trying to do is get neutral to be right on point, and we're just a little bit forward. Okay, so by adjusting the turnbuckle in the back, I've got this absolutely perfect on center. Let me see if I can show you with some light in there. Basically, it is perfect. It is a straight shot with no misalignment, which I love it up. It's in neutral right now, so I'll have my 2 centering springs working in harmony together to center. Now I just got to make sure that there's enough threads that it can actually reach reverse. That's the issue I was having before. I was having to choose between getting all the way to reverse and then having it center on third. Okay, I'm actually getting excited. We are so close. We are 1 thread, half a thread away from getting this to be chef's kiss setup, perfect. At one point, I genuinely sent an email to Shinu and I said, you designed this wrong. It's impossible to get it right. I have to take it back. Tweaking and cutting, which is nowhere in the directions. Cut, cut, cut. It's extremely important. But after that, cutting and then tweaking, we're gonna get it. So this is the level of adjustment we're up against right now. We're up against take it off and go half a turn. That's the finiteness that I'm going for. Now notice that we're in neutral and I want that to just fit on really nice. And just to be clear, that level of adjustment, that 1/2 turn, was the difference between getting into reverse and not getting into reverse on the long end of the throw. So that is very much what we're doing right now. Okay, I fully admit that this modification is not sanctioned. It's certainly off the instructions. I'm going to take a drill and I'm going to relieve just the center, a couple of threads in here, just so that I think I can get the cable threaded end to go deeper in there. I think it's bottoming out here because there's no more threads compared to down deeper, and that's going to buy me another millimeter or 2, which is what I need. That is how close I am. Let me give it a try. Again, I'm just trying to relieve a little bit. I'm not trying to destroy all the threads because obviously I need them. So what I did was I ended up countersinking the threads here 2.5 millimeters. So I think this is going to be perfect. This is where it stopped before, right there. Now it gets an additional 1 full turn, right? 1 full turn and a half. And I think that's really going to make a difference here. Once you get really close, I can shift the cars from here and I can see it over there in the car. Like I can see that it's going to third, but it's sort of just bouncing off of the gate a little bit. It's sort of going to the right as it goes in, just a little bit. I mean, you could probably drive it like this, but I want this perfect. I want this precise. But yeah, I can go all the way over. I can get first gear. I can go deeply over. I can get reverse. And then of course I can go for the other high gears as well. So you don't even need to go in the car. That's actually pretty awesome. See, the advantages of a mid-engine car are so many, so much better than a normal car. An easy way for me to know that I've got it just right. So I come over here, and then I take this off, and now the shifter up front is in neutral. The gearbox down here is in neutral, because you can see it always falls back to neutral, and I should just be able to gently push this on and off. There should be very little tension in either forward or backward directions, and that's what I have right now. And on top of that, I can still go all the way down and get reverse. Reverse is the hardest to get, and I can push it down and over, and I'm in reverse. I can let up and go halfway, and that's first. I can go back to neutral, and now that's third. That looks perfect, and then I can pull up, and that's fifth. That's it. I got it. It is perfect. It took hours. I will count up all the time on this, right? I'm still not done. I have to put the engine back together, the airbox, I have to put the interior in, but the shifter is in. I'm gonna tighten all the bolts, I'm gonna tighten all the nuts, but we're done. I mean, I am there. All we have to do is put it back in. I'll probably throw the seat in, just do a test drive. Lock these down over here. I'm using a crescent wrench because I don't have the right size, but you know, you got two of them. If you have the right size wrench, you can do it with the right tool. All right, don't forget your Loctite on wherever you might need things. This doesn't need it, this does. I think I'm crazy, but I'm gonna put just the tiniest dab on here because I've already lost one of these tiny little nuts, and I'm not gonna lose the other one. Again, I won't have access once to this to adjust this really. If I want this to be perfect. Now, see? Give myself just a little bit more freedom. That is the last bolt that I just put thread locker on. Nut and bolt. Yeah, man. This has been a journey. We're not done yet. I got to put this thing together and do a real test drive, but we have made major progress today. It only took me another 3 hours. Fine tuning. It's worth it though. It's worth it. Freaking worth it. I do not want to 1-2-1 this car. I want 1, 2, 3. You know, I don't want to blow my engine. Okay, let me do this before I forget. All right, this is the adjustment that worked for me on my car, my experience. Yours may vary, but this was mine. So the biggest learning for me is this has to be as tight as possible. The cable end has to be as inward as possible. I don't even have the jam nut on here. That's been removed. I then had to cut the cable threads, I cut 9 threads, you know, 9 valleys. You just count the valleys. Now, again, I didn't do that in one step. I'm not saying you should just go immediately lop off 9. Start with 5, see how that feels. Go a little bit more if you need, okay? But probably, if your setup is like mine, I had to do 9 to totally dump this out, max out this out, and then even countersink it. So that was my experience. You want to go for broke, go for 9. That's on you. You can't add them back once they're gone. That's why I say that. I'm in the car. We're gonna test this. Oh. Yeah. Oh man. Oh yes. Yes. Oh wow. You know what I really like about this? There is no on center play. I mean, it is, as soon as you start moving the ball, the gear linkages are engaged without any play, and it's just like, oh, you want first? So it's a small motion. Wow, it's very mechanical feeling. It's very mechanical. You can feel it click into the gears. Oh wow, that feels good.
These summer tires, not terribly happy in this 39-degree Fahrenheit near freezing temperature. Oh, everything is very intuitive. I'm not going to go too far or too fast. I still need to button up some things on the under tray. Oh wow, it's so mechanical. It feels very metallic, which in some ways feels like maybe less refined than the old one, because the old one you didn't really hear anything, but this one you genuinely hear it, you feel it. Wow, every gear slots in so perfectly. I'm so glad I took the time to adjust this. Oh my lord. Make sure I can get up to, like, even though I'm going pretty slow. I'm not going to do reverse, obviously, but not at the moment. There it is, there's 6. There's 5th, it doesn't like it because I'm going too slow. There's 4th. Oh wow. Everything feels so good. I'm gonna turn the car, I'm gonna back the car into here just to try out reverse. It's a nice wide driveway that I'm working with. Nobody behind me. Oh my goodness. Clearly that works. Oh yes. I'm able to move quickly. I think the throws are slightly shorter. Certainly the Crossgate between 3rd and the plane of 3rd and 1st, that's definitely shorter. Wow, yeah. Forward and backward throws are maybe slightly shorter than stock. I haven't driven the car in a little while, but it's not like it's a short shifter kit, but wow, so precise. And I love that there's no on-center play. It's bolt upright. It stays there. Oh my lord. Yes! Oh man, this feels so good.
All right, so I just put the interior, the center console side in, and we're gonna have to remove some of this material. And the reason for that is because if we go over here and use the well, because this isn't all the way in, that's why, because it's essentially gonna make contact there. So mostly I want to see for the Crossgate where I need to remove the material. So we're more or less removing that, which I drew with the red line. I'm gonna remove that with a Dremel tool. All right, here we go again. Make sure you wear your safety stuff. By the way, it cuts really well with a stone head, which is what the instructions said. I did a little bit of just outline cuts with the diamond cutter, but the stone is actually probably the way to go. And it's, you know, if I press this up and kind of tie it in where it would be, it's still a little close on the one side, sort of on this side here. So I'm probably just going to clean that up just a tad more.
The best compliment I can really give this shifter and the cables is that it requires no time to learn it. It immediately falls to hand and immediately feels natural once it's set up. You got to take the time to set it up. All right, here we go. It feels so natural, I feel like I can move quick. very mechanical. I can feel it going into the gear. It's a very communicative shifter actually, because we've really hardened up a lot of the points and removed the slop. It's now transmitting a lot of that feedback through the gear shift lever into my hands, and I can feel I'm not quite into the gear. Boom! No, I'm in. I can feel as the gear engages. It's very positive engagement. And you also get a little bit of mechanical clicking sounds, which it's a positive. I'll definitely take it. I think it's good because that reinforces that you know that you're in gear. Now, for some people, you might say, well, it's a little less refined. I think it is a little less refined. I think it's slightly more hardcore because you feel the mechanical feeling as it locks in. Whereas with the stock shifter, it was a little bit more quiet and a little bit more sloppy. I really like this shifter. I'm so happy I did this. Like, the fact that this on center is so left to right for the gate is so precise. Like, there's no play at all. And my favorite gear, without a question, dropping straight back into fourth feels so good on this. It actually feels slightly better than the other gears. I don't have a clear explanation why. It's the way the transmission is set up and the way the cables interface with the transmission. But dropping, like 6 is okay, but dropping straight back into fourth is the most clean feeling shift out of all the gears, and it's just fabulous. Anyway, like, here's some downshifts for you. It's fast, it's smooth, it's so much smoother, it's lighter, it's a lighter feel than stock, because I was pulling against terrible cables before as well, and I can just kind of drop it. I like that if I'm in second and I want to go to third, it's just forward motion. So to me, to my hand, it feels like a singular forward motion, because it took a while to adjust that, so it really the centering springs centered to third, the plane of third, fourth, and then I could just slot it forward. So to me, that feels, that's probably the most critical in a shifter, in my opinion. That's the most critical shift between second to third. Everything else is less critical, but second to third is a rushed shift typically, because you're trying to get, that's an acceleration period. You're really on power, you're revving it all the way up, and you're trying to get, from A to B quickly. So you want to go from second to third very quickly. And with the old shifter, when it was the OE shifter, before it was set up correctly, because when I bought the car, it was a little off center, it needed some adjustment, I would actually hit the gate between first and third, and that's terrible. That's very unacceptable. With this, after I've got this set up now, it feels just perfect. It's a single, like, here's second, forward is what I'm doing. I'm just putting a forward velocity onto it, and it's slotting into third, which is what I want. It feels really good. I kind of want to cut a hole here just so I can see the shift mechanism working all the time. I guess if you have an Elise or an Exige, you're already set. Shanu, Carlos, thank you so much for your help. Sorry I got a little frustrated that one day when I was just tired and trying to adjust this thing, and I said, this is not designed correctly. It is. It just requires some modification. For the Evora, you gotta trim this one, which is the Crossgate cable. You gotta trim that, and it's not optional, it's mandatory. A little bit of expectation setting, a little bit of making sure the directions are clear for the combination of the TransCables, the interconnect TransCables, and the interkinetic ShiftR111R. As long as those two things, we need specific instructions that highlight some of the subtleties, of putting these two elements together. Once really those instructions come, there is no reservation on this. I mean, it is that good. There's little things that I need to do, like fix up the zip ties in here, a couple of places just to route the wiring, get my 12-volt charger back up and running, and then of course put all the interior in. This is just reusable. You can pull out the old zip ties and just thread through the new ones. There we are.
looks lovely. So that will never rub. Bye-bye, prettiest part in a Lotus Evora that no one knows about. Okay, we're gonna cover you up now. Gotta be honest, I'm just like, I have this overwhelming feeling of joy. I'm just putting the car back together. I'm so excited. Show you what I got here. I've got the zip tie position between the boot and the two nuts here. I'm gonna tighten it down at its lowest, possible area, and then we'll see what it looks like. Definitely looks, it's a little bit like puffy around the bottom here, but it's really not bad. And that makes me really happy, because I know one of the big complaints that I read about of the ShiftR111 online on the forums is that the way the shift boot, the gator, sort of looks unfinished. But honestly, that looks almost OEM. I'm not upset about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and press the HVAC panel in and say that center console is done. Throw the seats back in. You've seen me do that 100 times. I'm not going to do it on camera. And we're good. Nothing left to do except drive it. All right. So that's how you replace your stock shifter with the interkinetic ShiftR111. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks again to Monkey Wrench Racing. Do good, be well.